from the world of sports. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime.
Okay.
And we know this is his
Deion, as they used to call him back in the day.
Deion, like we used to call him. So as we know, this is his second season coaching the Colorado Buffaloes, and he is never short of varying opinions. Incredibly polarizing person. And so there's the latest story in and around him is a reporter from the Denver Post was banned. So not only did Deion Sanders, but the university supported his ban of this one particular reporter because they felt that his coverage had crossed the line. And so crossed the line in terms of going personal. He really went after Deion.
Is asking him personal questions.
Well, it didn't ask him personal questions. He made personal comments, personal statements. And when I say personal, meaning negative comments about him, disparaging comments about him.
Against Deion.
Against Coach Sanders. These were, and so I think the biggest problem as they saw it was these were not questions about his ability to coach. It wasn't about his team. He made comments like by calling him a fake prophet. He made Kool-Aid follower references and so on. Was calling him the Bruce Lee of bullshit or something along those lines. But I think so. If you know about Deion, if you know anything about Deion, you know he's a man of strong faith.
Right.
Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't swear. Talks about his faith and his beliefs in God and the church. It's a really big deal to him.
Right.
So the fake prophet thing, that hit different, right? The whole Kool-Aid thing.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest. Full disclosure, when I first read the thing about the Kool-Aid,
right,
I thought it had to do with some black stuff, like him being
that's what I was thinking when you said that,
like Kool-Aid.
No,
but then I thought about it, and it was this reference to Jim Jones. So not Jim Jones the rapper, but it was Jim Jones who was the self-proclaimed prophet. Right, and so now I'm going back. Now, folks are gonna probably have to Google some of this stuff, but years ago, probably in the 70s, sometime in the 70s, preacher Jim Jones was originally in the States and was really the government really came after him by the way he was presenting his teachings to his flock and so on. So he and a number of people up and moved to the Caribbean. I want to say Guyana, right?
Okay.
Folks don't hold me on that.
Okay.
Moved to Guyana, and at some point, there was a mass suicide where he and his followers all drank laced Kool-Aid, right?
Okay.
So this was the comment, well, I guess they're all drinking the Kool-Aid.
Okay, got it.
It was born out of that,
okay,
right? And so now to come full circle, you've got folks, this gentleman talking about Deion, fake prophet, drinking the Kool-Aid, to someone about, and you're questioning their faith. Absolutely inappropriate. So Deion said, enough is enough. It's not happening.
Okay.
There were folks that came out against what Deion did and said, hey, he's not a reporter. He's a columnist, right? So people are actually paying to hear his opinion.
Okay.
Right? So he's there for that. Two,
was this a press conference type thing?
He was at a press conference and he chose not to answer some questions.
Okay.
But then more of the story came out.
Okay.
Then there were folks that were saying Deion should not have said anything, should have just ignored him. No one knew who the hell this reporter was. You've essentially just put him on the map nationally, and now we're all Googling and see who he is. You probably inadvertently helped him.
Okay.
To which some others would say, people would pick up why you're not answering his questions, right? They would have dug in. So I want to ask you, is like who's right, who's wrong in this, right? I want to ask you to see if you can pick a side. Did Coach Prime go too far, he and the university? Or is this reporter just doing his job? And are you supposed to kind of somewhat take this because, again, he was a columnist and not a reporter? So what's your thought on that?
So, like, if it was in a press room, I don't know where the interview was actually taking place, but if it's in a press room and it's like say after a game or something like that, and the reporters have a job. They have to ask the questions, and I believe it's in their contracts that the coaches have to answer the questions coming from the reporters. Like it just is part of the job, right?
I'm gonna interrupt you there real quick. He's got Coach Prime has some language in his contract with the school where he can literally decide who he doesn't want to talk to. So
he can make that choice
legally, contractually.
He can do that, right? Yeah. So well, that changes the story then. So in that case, well, that's a good point that you brought up, because normally I don't know a lot of people that have that in their contract, so they have to answer the questions. But if you just have to use your common sense. Like, even if it is in their contracts, if someone is being rude, right, and they're asking questions that you don't like, or who makes you feel uncomfortable in any way, and I forget, there was a story of, was it Caitlin Clark? There was a reporter that asked Caitlin Clark some really funny kind of questions and made her feel really.
Yeah, he put the heart.
The heart.
All that stuff and everything.
Right.
It was almost like he was trying to shoot his shot.
Yeah, he was trying to shoot his shot at like a press conference.
Make his affection for her known. Right.
Exactly, doing his thing, and it made her feel real. I think she might have answered it to like very little, but and he got into a shitload of trouble for doing that.
I thought she handled that well, by the way.
She did. She definitely did. She definitely did, and because a lot of the people in her situation probably wouldn't have, but because she's so new or whatever, she tried her best, and she was probably kind of weird to that. But my point is, if it gets to a point where anyone is being answered questions and they feel uncomfortable in any way, I think they should just voice their opinion and say, listen, I didn't like that question. I am not going to answer it, and I'm just going to keep it moving, right? You know, we understand that reporters have to do their job and they have to ask questions, but they also have to make sure that they are asking it in a respectable way, and they're not bringing up stupid things, and they're not doing these things. But a lot of times, there's reporters and reporters. There's doctors and there's doctors. There's cops and there's cops. Like, there's good in every job or occupation that you're doing, and there's bad. This reporter doesn't sound like they was such a great reporter or columnist, right? They weren't asking the questions that he thought was appropriate to ask, and he decided not to answer them. So to answer your question, I don't think that Deion was wrong. I don't think, and especially like you said with his contract, right? He was actually smart. He was looking ahead of the curve, and he was like, you know what, this crap might happen to me one day, and I may not want to answer your questions. So he was very smart to put that in there. And, so it actually worked out in his situation. It worked out in this case. And kudos to him for putting that in his contract. So, no, I don't think there was anything wrong. And the columnist should actually be ashamed of himself, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Coach is really sparking this emotion from folks. You either like him or you dislike him. I'm not sure where so much of the dislike comes from. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that this columnist stepped over the line a little bit, right? And so Deion, in this case, was responding to comments that he made and things he wrote about him. And now you're at the press conference. The season hasn't even started yet. And this guy's in rare form. Right. So Deion's like, listen, we're not going there. We're not even doing it. We know he knows who he is.
Right.
And it seems like something else was there. As I mentioned before, these comments had nothing to do with the team, how they're playing, who they're recruiting. There are 100 different topics that he could have touched on.
Right.
He chose to say these things about him. Not sure why. That's between him and his God. He can explain that, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no need for that. But I thought, listen, it would be tough for me to not have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, you and I both, we see the comments,
absolutely,
some of the negative comments and so on, and it's a real thing, and I think there's a different level, right, when we see comments,
right,
that are less than favorable or flattering of us, but this is someone who's just kind of out there in the sphere, right, a keyboard bully sometimes that says, "Hey, Jay, I don't like when you this,"
right,
"Hey, I don't like that." just imagining if this is someone else that we know.
Yeah.
Someone that we know, someone that comes to us who's literally relying on us to do their job as well.
Right.
You're writing about us, right? Your job is to cover us.
That is true.
Right. Now this person's in the room with us and just going to sit here and just ask us questions like everything's normal. Meanwhile, you wrote these scathing, disparaging comments and so on, questioning my character, my faith, and so on. I don't know. You know what? I think I'm with you with being with Coach Prime.
Right. Yeah, but it is kind of tough too because I know. Listen, it's not like some of these reporters, these columnists. They are still doing their job. They're trying to find out the best questions to ask. Sometimes you do have to ask questions that sometimes are a little controversial. That you know that some of these people that you're interviewing don't want to answer. But sometimes you just have to go there. You have to do it respect. You have to be professional, obviously. But every single question, every person I've ever interviewed, I know they don't want me to ask every single question, but sometimes you do. Obviously, I'm always going to be respectful of the person, and everybody should keep that in mind, right? So, I mean, I will say with those particular questions, I don't think they were that much out there.
Yeah, but he called him a fake prophet. Like when to someone that you know speaks openly about their faith.
Yeah.
Right. Who preaches the gospel, man. Right. Who is a leader of young men. Listen, and he talks a lot about this. The majority of those young men that are on that team that play on Saturdays, they're not going to be playing on Sunday. Right. They are going to be the engineers, the law enforcement folks, the people in the medical field.
Right.
They're playing in school right now, but they're all most of them are going to normal everyday jobs.
Right.
And what he provides and the lessons that he provides and the teachings and so on, and he has them in attempting for them to be grounded in faith.
Right.
The idea that you within someone, for whatever reason, you want to call him a fake prophet, as if somehow that what he's saying is impure, isn't true. As Deion said, it's got to know who he is. Doesn't know what's in his heart, right?
Yep.
That seemed a little bit kind of a low blow. It's beyond a low blow. It's like it seems like, you know what it is. It felt like hate.
Okay.
It felt a bit more than just even taking a shot. Like there's some genuine dislike, but
that's what it felt like hate.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Like just more than just personal. It was like some character assassination kind of thing. Like there was something else there.
Yeah, right? Something.
Like I get it. If you see bullshit, you call bullshit. Like that guy's fake. But some of those things he was saying, I was like,
it wasn't too smart on his part.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And he got called out for it. And thank God that Deion had that in his contract. So he'd be like, negative, we done.
Yeah, we done. The school released a statement and everything. So kudos to them.
That's good. That's good.